And in a cloud of smoke began the OutrageCast number 4.
Number 4.
Back with one of its
number 4. It's one more.
Esteemed congressional congressman that headed up the committee.
I am from the Wyoming delegation. We talk like this in Wyoming as well. Yes, we've got some genteel people there. You know, you wouldn't have expected that. We've got the transatlantic sort of dialect. You know,
we've got powdered wig
sort of
makers.
Kerry. What's his name? Kerry something. Kerry Grant. Yes.
We've got powdered wig fashionistas.
There's coffee shops all across Wyoming. People don't realize it. Yeah, I'm Kevin Bennett. Nick Jordan.
And always Nick Jordan. Beautiful day in Los Angeles. Little hot.
Just a
midday
bit.
sun, but we're feeling good. We just shot a little late night parody.
Yeah, that'll be some fun.
We're trying to get the sound issues figured out.
Yeah, well, we just need to buy the equipment.
Anybody who wants to donate Outrage TV some top-notch sound equipment.
Yeah, message this guy, you know.
Nick Jordan 84@gmail.com.
There's 83 others. Keep that in mind.
I tried them all. But yeah, man, it's fun stuff going on. We're now Russia has conquered the United States.
Yep.
Because
Russia conquered the U.S. Can you believe it?
Because Donald Trump,
believe it?
He fell to his knees and talked to Vladimir Putin.
He talked to Vladimir Putin, and that means he's a puppet.
He let the words slip his lips.
Anytime a world leader talks with a leader of another country in a closed room, they're colluding to rig something.
They're probably organizing child kidnapping rings. Let's be honest.
Yeah, those are evil people. Yeah, it's crazy. I actually put a picture up. There's a gal named Tamara who posts hilarious stuff, and she posted a picture of Stalin with FDR, and he was laughing, and I found one, and I posted one as well. I said, oh my gosh, they've been colluding since FDR. I didn't know FDR was colluding with the Russians. Ironically, to a certain extent, he was. He's a little communistic, I believe. But he wasn't like, I mean, Stalin's way worse than Putin, for goodness sakes. I think is it possible to say that Putin is worse than Stalin?
You don't understand, bro. There's some conspiracy theories on the internet about how he had people killed and they rigged the elections.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Have you ever met a Russian guy that didn't scare you? Let's just be honest.
Yeah, they can't help but listen to me. I have a voice like your nightmare.
They all sound like vampires.
The Russians have a vampire sound. Very vampiric.
They're the perfect scare tactic for a government trying to create an external threat that's not really there. Russia isn't trying to do anything militarily against the U.S.
No.
Their main point of contention was the control over Syria, and then Hillary wanted to have the no-fly zone over Syria.
Well, and there's also the whole uranium thing.
And Ukraine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the uranium thing with the Hillary and
that $500,000 speech Bill had. There's just some interesting stuff going on there that's totally swept under the rug. I mean, here's the truth of the collusion. The Russian collusion delusion, as Roger Stone says, it's an effusion of ridiculousn's is what it is. If there was any collusion, if there was any hacking of the election, I was trying to do this in the sketch, but it's too dang complicated, and you're right, we couldn't have gone through with it. But here's what happened, right? Socialism, cultural Marxism. They send over sleeper spies who become professors at the university, and they're just advancing a lot of socialist ideals. And all of us have seen this who've been through college. I mean, these guys are red diaper babies. You know, they were raised by socialists. They were cleaned and baptized into the socialist credo since they could toddle across the floor. You see these professors and whatnot, and the useful idiot class of the intelligentsia, which is wooed by the sleeper spies. That's what they're doing. They're not so much getting information. They're fomenting that sort of idealism. Yuri Bezmenov talks about cultural Marxism and how there's distinct goals and how there's a program that's lined out how it'll work.
But this was communist Russia. Russia is no longer...
Well, right, and here's the deal. They did that until 1990 when the Soviet Union fell. right?
Because they were like, we're getting out of this hellhole. Let's go teach at Berkeley.
And in 80s America, socialism, it went up because that was the peak of their efforts. And those 80s
the 60s
people...
ended with the Great Society.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And then so what... Yeah, 60s ended it, fomenting revolution and the socialist ideal through to the 80s. Our generation comes out of that time. A lot of our parents were just fooped. And so the demoralization that Yuri Bezmenov described...
The bad timing was that they did have a point about being anti-war in Vietnam.
Well...
They did have a point, and so that is what, was their ideological underpinning.
Yeah, and a lot of the Vietnam War wasn't strictly on the up and up.
They weren't opposed to war in general.
Yeah.
They're just opposed to...
Well, and the thing is, communism is pernicious, and it is good to stop it. I think we had our efforts focused perhaps in the wrong direction. I'm not sure strategically on that. But what I was getting at is our generation now, the millennials, are very socialistic because of that cultural Marxist seeding and perversion of our ideology through the mainstream media, through music, through the arts, through
and because
the
life is
universities.
so easy for us.
Yeah, it's just
compared to previous generations. We have the internet.
It's a snap.
We can get shit delivered to our house instantaneously.
So subversion is what has taken place for decades, and it stopped in about 1990 because that's when the Soviet Union fell. So those programs like Domino's, they went down, but they produced a bad fruit. That subversion trickled down to the population, and it's on Hillary's side of the fence. That's the ironic part about it, is they hacked you wouldn't have had a Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton running in this election.
Yeah, a socialist just won in New York.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen. That would not happen.
They put the word democratic in place.
Because they know people are too stupid.
Because, we're deciding that it's, we're on the side that, that doesn't just have a bloody revolution and instill these ideas. We're pretty sure you're dumb enough to actually vote for them.
Yeah.
That's how condescending democratic socialist is.
And that's the irony of the whole thing. So Russia in Putin's era, after the mafia came in 1990, and then Putin's era came after that. And there's another guy in the middle. I forget his name. Wasn't that Boris? It wasn't Boris. It was who's the guy in the anyway. What happened is they became more capitalistic, leaning toward monarchy, but it isn't there. It's more. It's just kind of it's close. It's not a dictatorship. It's not quite fascism, but it's more authoritarian. It's authoritarian capitalism.
It's more individualism.
Yeah,
that comes along when
and it's not socialist anymore at all.
With not Christianity.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's authoritarian capitalism with an Eastern orthodoxy, which is like Catholicism without the paganism. There's still a little bit of weirdness. That's a whole other topic. Anyway, point being, they're not socialists now. They're not Soviets. The irony is the seed of the socialists coming and now blaming Russia is in fact the children of the fruit of that sleeper spy movement. They didn't have. If there was anything, it's on Hillary's side. That's the irony of it. And it's as a response to that. Thank God Trump came in. And then if you look at things from a strictly pragmatic perspective, there's no possible way with the infrastructure Russia has, they'd be able to pull that off. To make Trump be the president, they'd have to rear him from his days in military school. And they'd have to seed him along using intelligence means of strategy to get him into the right position so that he knew the right people, so that he very carefully planned his move for the right time. It would take decades and decades to do this through 3 eras of social change in Russia. The Soviet regime fell in 1990, then you had the gangsters, and then in 2000 upwards, we're getting to now where Russia is today, where it's starting to even out on its... So all that would have had to maintain the same program for decades for the Russians to have hacked the election, and that before all the voting stuff. Because they're saying Trump's an agent. They're not just saying the Russians went in there and changed some votes around. They're saying they're puppeteering Trump, which is ridiculous.
It's not that the Russians hacked the election, it's that the communists hacked the Democratic Party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You summed it up. The communists hacked the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And that has been
and it went from
Marxism.
classical liberalism and individualism like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
It went from that to like basically a libertarian, what a libertarian is called now. I mean, classical liberal.
Yep.
They're basically interchangeable.
Yep.
It went from that to now what we see. Like the Bernie Sanders and this socialist chick like getting elected and going on speaking tours through the middle of the country. Like,
yeah.
Just because they look innocent doesn't mean the ideology is innocent.
Well, the devil masquerades as an angel of light. That's how that works.
But Bernie Sanders looks too damn kooky. He's never going to win.
He's got a goiter and a weird way of speaking.
He's never going to win any significant. He's gone as far as he's going to go. Because if you saw that guy on the sidewalk, I wouldn't even want to ask that dude for directions if he was just talking to himself. Income inequality.
The bird landed on me when I was doing the speech, and I thought it was a good idea. 88 miles an hour, Marty. 88. You're gonna see something serious.
I'm walking past that guy. I'll probably ask the next person.
Yeah, crazy Bernie. Well, he hasn't held a job. He lives in $1 million houses. They defrauded a college, or I don't know exactly how that went down, but I read about it. They ended up using their position of authority toward their own end, and their bet didn't pay off, and that ended up, I believe, shutting down a university, didn't it?
How do donations like that work? What happens to when Bernie drops out of the race? What happens to all that?
Money? Sorry guys.
What happens?
Didn't work out.
What happens to all that excess money that didn't go toward the campaign?
Well, yeah, if I were him, I'd definitely keep a percentage
There's probably
back.
specific laws about that, right?
There gotta be. I don't know. I mean, expensive operation.
I'll just say on Google, what happens to campaign donations after a politician drops out?
Yeah, because there's got to be some left over. Depends on the politician, I'd say. Because even if there's law in place, these guys, people who make the rules know where there's leeway in the rules. That's the value of it.
If you donated more than $2,700 to a presidential candidate who dropped out of the race before the general election, you can anticipate a refund. Official candidate committees must return any money contributed towards the general election if they do not win the primaries.
Oh, so they got to win the primaries. And then they can keep it.
And the primary for the presidency is the two candidates, right? It's not talking about multiple tiers of it.
I should know that, but I don't. Google primaries. We should be better informed on the terminology. Unfortunately, I should be. I don't know.
But the point is, I don't know. Maybe if you there's probably some small fine print where he can put it into his foundation.
Yeah,
and then embezzle his.
I don't know. There's always something. I don't want to.
It's just funny,
but yeah,
seeing a socialist who's supposed to be a public servant living in such.
Google
wealth.
Bernie's $3 million house. I know that one.
That's just enough.
Yeah, it's a strange state of affairs.
I don't know which. There's 5 different houses here.
Well, what's the article say on it?
Google's probably scrubbing it clean. They don't want to show you that.
Well, what's the article? Let's look at the article.
Bernie Sanders slams billionaires, gets reminded he owns 3 houses. Bernie Sanders buys $600,000 summer home.
Oh, maybe it's all 3 of the houses are valued at $3 million together.
What was supposed to be the number?
Well, it was associated with the property he owned, and it was $3 million. And
$575,000 vacation home.
So that's 2. So that puts us at about 12.
We earned $1 million in 2016, but taxes eat all that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is they're just not good ideas.
No.
This encouraging class envy.
Absolutely.
And now it's shifted over to race and gender.
Oh, it's ridiculous. They're trying to make race and gender.
Cultural Marxism aspect of it.
Right.
Is just the antithesis of everything Martin Luther King stood for.
Oh, yeah. Judging people by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. That's exactly what they're encouraging. Instead of it's color, it's what niche do you fulfill, and are you being careful to respect the other niches, because we want to be diverse by being exactly the same and doing what we want, unless people say we shouldn't do that, in which case we don't. It's just it's ridiculous. It's controlling. I hate it. I'm not a fan of it. It's wrong, and it's getting worse.
And there's the whole thing with identifying as whatever you want, and people saying that you have to respect how I feel. I feel gender fluid today. I'm figuring it out. All right. You should address me for the rest of today as gender fluid, and otherwise that's an act of violence. Against me.
Oh my god!
Some chick, Stephen Crowder was arguing with it was there are only two genders. Changed my mind.
Yeah, I love that. That was very funny.
And this chick came up and she was like, I teach in the feminism department or department of diversity or some weird thing. And it was this overweight, bald, white chick, and she came up and was like super aggressive with him. And was like making that argument that if you misgender someone on purpose, it's an act of violence.
No.
So it's like they're getting your feelings hurt now is like.
Yeah, that's the problem. If you are always sensitive, you're never going to develop the mental. But think about it; it's like an
enforceable crime.
Well, it's a sad state of affairs. And I think it means we need to be vigilant to work against that if we really want to live in a free and independent society like we used to. I mean, people don't realize the freedoms they've lost, or for some reason they're deluded into thinking the loss of those freedoms are a good thing because someone else gets free, but it really doesn't do that.
No, they want to actively decrease freedom.
Yeah, and that's all that seems to be happening. It's ridiculous.
And they want to get in on the power share.
Well, I think I understand some of what's going on. From the top down, those who are in a position of financial authority have a vested interest in ensuring they can control that which gives them resources, and it's usually people, human resources, if you will. They're treating us to a degree like chattel. I mean, a corporation's chattel are the consumers it caters to a degree, you know?
Well, they're providing them a service that's voluntary.
Yeah, no, not all corporations are bad, certainly.
Corporations and companies are different because corporations are morphed with the government and regulations.
There you go, yeah.
And there's all that bad influence and bad incentives on. It's just like the banks can do. They can take whatever risk they want, and then
countries are now essentially corporations that treat their people basically as the people are the wealth. I mean, the IRS values a human being at between $1 and $2 million over the course of an average lifestyle. I mean, you can do the math on it. $20,000 a year will put you at that much money.
You just hurt my feelings with those facts, so that's an act of violence.
Well, so there you go. If everything's an act of violence and we're all depending on the government, and we're all paying high taxes, and we're all taking birth control,
because my feelings are hurt,
and we're all on SSRI inhibitors of one kind or another, and we're all drinking the bad water, and we're eating the synthetic foodstuffs that are made from folks like Monsanto and mixed with things like NutraSweet, which has aspartame, which comes from the fecal matter of E. coli. If we're all eating and bathing in all this stuff, we'll be cancer-ridden.
If you want to put a packet in your iced tea, go ahead. All right, if it makes it taste better, or just drink regular iced tea. Don't be a punk.
Point being, there's so many things that are thrown over us like tiny little ropes. The Lilliputians cast over Gulliver when he was on the island of little people. Remember that? It's like,
but all those are there to help you.
Yeah, they're to help you stay stable and down and unmoving. Because if you move, you could hurt yourself. You don't want to hurt yourself.
Wear that seatbelt.
Wear that seatbelt. Get an insurance policy on everything. Everything needs to be insured. You must be insured 10 ways from Sunday, not 6 ways. 10 ways from Sunday.
On this tyrannical note, we're gonna take a pause here and go to the next clip in the podcast.
All right. There we go, John.
Oh, I gotta make a new.
We're trying to make things work.
And we're off. We're back, ladies and gentlemen.
Back. All right.
Back in the podcast mezzanine dimension.
So yeah, we're talking about how countries treat their citizens now in a way that is similar to how corporations treat assets, and is if you want.
You can even make the analogy simpler. It's like Stefan Molyneux did this great video of the story of your enslavement.
There you go.
And it's basically that you have more value as a human being if you have a little bit of freedom and feel like you're making your own choices and living your own life. You're a free range human then, and then you're able to be healthy, and
it's a free range human.
It's a farmer analogy. Farmer lifestyle.
You know what else?
Because they milk you of the.
It's also kind of feudalistic, as in a feudalism, as in we are chattel or peasantry.
You're free to do as we tell you.
Yeah, the peasants are free within the kingdom, right? Are they? No, they're impoverished and they're at the behest of the king, but.
They can always point over there across the ocean. No, look at that country.
Aren't
you glad you're not them?
You can be royalty. You can be politically correct bureaucracy, or you can be peasantry. So you can be the leadership, the people who are allied to the leadership, or the worker. That's North Korea. That's the most extreme example of where this kind of thinking will eventually lead. We're not there yet, thank God. But just looking at Southern California, you can see that. And that's what they're doing. That's what a feudalism is. North Korea is a feudal system, essentially. I mean, it's just remarketed under the branding of socialism, but it's essentially the same. That's the outcome. Socialism isn't trying to do that, but that's the natural outcome. You got the Pareto principle where the cream rises, and if you kill all the other cream except for the dirty, nasty cream, it's just going to rise.
You know what maybe the most socialist institution in the country is? The Federal Reserve.
Perhaps.
Because it's making the assumption that you could centrally plan an economy for 350 million people. And all of those voluntary transactions that happen on a given day. You're the one that decides what the interest rates are, the money supply is. If we're going to just create new money out of nothing and add it and give credit to all these banks, and you both know you're doing shady shit, and it's just an agreement that we're both not going to talk to Congress about it.
Well, IRS being separate institution of the government as well. That's kind of, it's not even a lot of the internal. I heard the Internal Revenue Service, they've got their own court, they've got tax court, so you can't, if things go awry, you got to go to tax court. So that basically means they win. There's no way around that. I mean, it's some rough stuff. We've got a lot of change on us. Taxes are very seldom restricted. Trump's killing it. I mean, he's taking taxes back. He's taking laws back. He's increasing tax breaks. I mean, that's amazing.
But that's what's great about this fucking country is we have that fundamental founding ethic of freedom of the individual.
Yeah, that's important. It's very important. Well, you've got to be able to make your own choices and not be compelled by the government. There shouldn't be, but there is a necessary evil in place when you've got a lot of imperfect people in one spot. I mean, not everybody's going to follow the law idealistically in a utopian motif as we may imagine. People are going to transgress the law in order to fulfill whatever they want, that good or bad, that's going to happen. So I think if you don't have some law, if you don't have some means of accounting for that,
I think the over-the-top reactions to stuff is a function of the technological era we're in, because we're so oversaturated with videos from all around the world.
1 in 59 now, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was
I think that's part of it. People online on Facebook, we all get a little autistic. What do we do? There's an argument, and you have to keep going, and you have to keep going, and you have to keep going.
There's always a new thing to be outraged about every day.
It's ridiculous.
If you want to look for it, it's there.
Yeah, it is. And there's an addiction. I heard a story about a woman who lost a loved one, and everybody pitied her and loved her and tried to help her feel better. And she enjoyed that so much, she continued to feign as though she had grief for up to a year afterward. And then people just couldn't stand the sight of her, because she wasn't actually grieving anymore, but she was addicted to the collateral benefits which came from grieving. Yeah. So I think we have a similarity in the outrage component. Everybody's mad about everything all the time, and they're all telling other people how to think and what to do. And they think they're not fascist, when in fact they're imposing much more harshly on other people things that are much more unnecessary. And I'm not for people who hate based on gender or race or anything like that. That's wrong. But at the same time, if to combat that, you have to take away
I think that's
basic
important.
reality.
I think they should have the freedom to hate it if they hate it.
Yeah.
That's very important because now they're trying to legislate what hate speech is,
and that's ridiculous because
and all the
everything's
social
hate
media
speech to
companies.
Somebody could be
totally
like,
subjective.
somebody could be like, you know what? A Macintosh is the best computer out there. I like Windows. That's hate speech. And you know what? That's ridiculous.
Well, it has to be related. It's going to be related in some way or to race or gender, but it's nonetheless. It's not any less subjective.
Well, that's the thing, though. Even something like a brand preference, technically, you can identify as a non-human now. Mm-hmm. You ever seen the video of that meme? I am a wolf in everything but my body.
Oh, yeah.
And then the guy barks at a moon, and you just want to deck him. You're like, you idiot.
Identify as a fox. Mm.
Yeah, that's the thing. People are identifying as not having a limb, as being blind. Yeah. You're telling me somebody married his computer in Utah, and he won.
Well, some people actually go through with it. Some people are voluntary amputees.
You see, that's insane. That's insane.
I respect them more than the people that like.
I don't respect them. I have more pity. They have a real mental disorder. If you're just pretending you're black like that one gal, that Rachel Dolezal, well, you're a turd.
But if you have really bad friends, you're like, I'm going to.
But if you're gonna chop off a limb, you have a serious mental condition. Somebody taking it too far. Some game she started playing in middle school, she just took it too far. The other one chopped off a limb. Okay, Rachel Dolezal, you need to just have a reality check and realize, okay, you started playing a game and you got caught on it. Don't act like you're making a statement. Knock it off. You're just you look kind of black.
Black guys are right there if you want to date them.
Yeah,
just date the black guy. Just don't do all this weird other shit.
Who cares?
We get it. You like black people, it's fine.
Who cares? Doing? Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Date who you want. That's the whole thing, this racial identity, this I need to be part of a minority that is subjected to abuses by a privileged class, and then having to identify a privileged class, it's all wrong. That's all stupid and wicked. It's all backwards. It's all passing the buck.
Yeah.
That's all it is passing the buck. Everybody's got their own
identity
problems.
Isn't independent of everything else.
Yeah, race isn't identity, you know that? Because
your true identity is like
it has nothing to do with race, gender, or anything. Who you are,
it has a lot to do with your interactions with other people.
Yeah, well, to a degree, that forms
it's a relationship.
Well, your
identity is a relationship.
Well,
because you talk it out with people, you're like, I really do that, and you figure shit out. Like you can see yourself more objectively through somebody else's eyes.
That's true too, but there's this to consider: your identity and who you are isn't fixed to one point in time. Mm-hmm. It's a continuous process from birth to death. Your identity is consumed by that entire lifeline. Who you are never rests in a single moment.
Yeah.
There are a series of moments that are building on one another, right? So if that's who you are, then saying who I am is this person who's got a transgender this or that, it's focusing on completely the wrong thing. Each of us is you might liken us to a piece of art or a painting, all right? And the painting isn't ever complete until it's finished. Birth is that first brush stroke. Death is by the time the painting's in the frame's been gilded, and it's uncovered in front of the audience. That's the whole spread of a person's life. And there's many different aspects to that. Mm. So getting all caught up on identity is basically eliminating colors in the painting, eliminating shapes, eliminating everything, and trying to make it monochrome. In the end, if you make everything about identity, you lose all identity. That's the irony. And what happens? You're left with a blank canvas. You can't have any color. You're left with a nothing. You're left with the foe of the never-ending story.
Your gender studies conversations.
Yeah, all you are is a bland, neutral, ventriloquist dummy or CPR mannequin. That's what you become. That's the end result of all this. It's a completely sterile, tasteless, thoughtless, loveless, lifeless conglomeration of walking dead people.
The communist redesign. We like it much better when we're in power. They're more robotic.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate expression of all this, where it's going. People don't realize it. They think they're liberating themselves by constraining themselves. They think they're smart and they're getting dumb. That's what's really happening. And all these features are continuously reducing what it means to be human. And it's going to reach a point where those in power take the mannequins to the dump and destroy them, aiming for that $500 million sweet spot that we find on the Georgia Guidestones. But it's going to go further than that. They just think that no. That I don't think it. God willing, it doesn't get to that direct point. But according to the end times, the Revelation book, it's the worst bloodshed ever. I look at a one world government. There can be nothing but horribleness.
I think the Malthusians are. They're misguided with the overpopulation thing.
Oh, there is no such thing. It would take. So we have, I believe, 8 trillion on the planet right now, and you could fit them all.
We don't have 8 trillion, you fucking psycho.
Billion, I'm sorry. I was thinking of deficits. 8 billion. We've got 8 billion. My bad. Oops. But anyway, you can fit them all in the...
Is that in Genesis?
In the 503 square mile area of LA, you could fit all 8 billion people. You could fit, but it would be like a city of cubes, if you will. But the problem is not...
the argument, too, is the resources. But also... Here's the main problem we have is too many dumb people are outbreeding the smart people. And so we don't have as many revolutionary scientific breakthroughs.
Well, that's part of it. What's really happening is we've got a breakdown in ethic and morality. So before, dumb people wouldn't outbreed the smart people because it wasn't socially accepted. Mm-hmm. You know? And so that...
You're speaking to the malevolent portion of the smart people that prey on...
Well, what I'm saying is socially, when you're not supposed to have sex unless you get married, then that's at a social level from the top down. If that's the norm,
no, that's from the bottom up. If that gets
what I'm saying is when that is what's in vogue in your society, you're going to have a reduction in all people doing these sorts of things, which have been statistically proven to reduce families, to break them up. To result in homelessness, to result in stupidity, to result in bastards, to result in crime-likely segments of the population. Now, it's not saying that does that directly. It doesn't. It's not, okay, my parents broke up, so now I'm a criminal. No. I'm just saying statistically, when you have 1 million people who've lost their parents as opposed to 5,000, that's going to change the impact that has on society. So when you have a society that is designed with these sort of ethics in mind, naturally, it's going to reduce how much of those dumb... So the balance is maintained better, basically, is what I'm getting at. But we were on overpopulation. 8 billion can fit, they'd be in cubes in the San Francisco area. You can fit that. So what that means is, if you wanted to, you could fit people in an area that's designed for the whole population and garden the rest of the world, if you wanted to. I don't think that's a good idea. I think the problem is overcondensation, not overpopulation. We have areas of the world where there are too many people at once. Perhaps you have a residential cap, but that doesn't seem like it would work because you're going to have babies born. I think the key here is moving out and being better users of the resources we have. But I don't see us actually having this big resource crisis they're talking about, and here's why. Israel went back to that desert, right, where it had been turned into... Mark Twain said, who'd ever want to live here? Remember? Now, Israel is the 3rd largest exporter of citrus in the world. Went from Mark Twain saying, who wants to live in this dirt hole, to the 3rd largest exporter of citrus in the world, and they're the size of Rhode Island. How's that possible? Well, they used human ingenuity to outfox the desert. They put some kind of bag over the root system or something. I don't know. You can look it up if you want.
That's what I'm saying. Really high IQ society, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Israel does have a very high IQ society, and the reason is they don't do any of that unnatural food stuff, right? I mean, the segments of the society do. People in Israel eat pork.
They have a strong moral and family ethic.
Yeah, and it precludes them from a lot of the trappings of modernity that are unhealthy for us mentally and physically. And that's why. That's cut and dry. So the key is...
It's almost like the technological Amish.
Yeah, if you will. That's a really good analogy. It is. Well, because going all the way back to Moses' time, whatever, when you have the Ten Commandments and all the Levitical law, you've got this washing of hands for holiness. And the guy in 1800 who he worked that they would give birth to babies and then they'd go into a mortuary and deal with dead bodies, and all the mothers were dying. Mm-hmm. Well, he was reading his Levitical law, I believe, and he saw that. He's like, "Oh, I'll wash my hands and see if that helps." It did. Turns out, germs. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think that was anticipated when they wrote that. Yeah. And he certainly didn't realize it.
The possibility of pork being infected when they didn't have
trichinosis.
freezers.
Yeah, all that stuff.
And
so all these things, for some reason, now whether or not you believe in God is your business. I think it's compelling evidence, but all these things have made it such that they lived in a flourishing environment as human beings. So they're not putting bad stuff in, and they're staying physically active, and they're treating their body right, and they're cleaning and getting all the germs off.
I just think it's the ability of really intelligent people to efficiently manage resources.
Right.
Which
it
is
can be done.
Which is why overpopulation wouldn't matter, because number one, there's going to be a carrying capacity of the earth.
Well, consider this. How does a seed work? A seed starts out that big, right? Mm-hmm. What's that seed do? It sucks in resources from without so that which is a mechanism within can expand out of the seed. The earth's a seed.
The leftists view human nature as that humans are fundamentally just consumers.
Right.
Because a lot of them haven't created something. They don't look at human beings as being creators.
That's correct. Yes. We consume, and then our output is creation. Yeah. See, they look at the first part of the, what do you call it?
That's nihilism.
The pupa. Yeah. They forget that there's a butterfly coming. So here's the deal. Here's what I see. So the earth is under the sun's rays. We can get solar energy. The sun feeds the plant. It fuels photosynthesis. All right? So we have a source of energy coming from without, which can be translated directly into industry now through solar panels, etc., but in an organic way as well. I don't see overpopulation or overcondensation ever being an issue, because once you get the intelligent people in society finding a balance naturally, using their mind to create ways of utilizing the energy around them, like Israel, who are technologically, they're like Japan's, I think, being outpaced. I'm going to have to look at it.
Now we have the internet. You don't actually have to, all the smart people from all around the world.
Knowledge has been spread out vis-a-vis Ezekiel. It's been spread out. Everybody's knowing everything nowadays. It's crazy because of the internet.
And I think the truth is going to rise to the top.
Yeah,
so
that's why I'm fundamentally optimistic. The Pareto principle. Yeah. So what I see happening is the earth as a seed sends out shoots into the soil of the solar system and galaxy until the garden of the universe has been made to flourish. And so I think the way that's going to happen is, as a society, we maintain our independent nation states and individualness, just like organs are separate in the body, but they're all one body. You can't have a heart bleed into the lungs. You need them to be separate, but they can exist independent of one another. Mm-hmm. One country needs to do one resource that another one consumes, vice versa. It's the same thing. It's just on a larger scale. It's like a fractal, right? So what happens is we start to work in a good way, like the Israel way, the whole way around the world, and then our resources are produced through the energy of the sun that's always feeding into that system in a way that they can expand to the moon.
I just figured out you're a Zionist shill.
No, I'm not a Zionist. What are you talking about?
I knew there was some...
Get out of here. No. There's certain elements of Zionism.
I love those conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
They're so dumb. Like you just can't give the Jews credit for their fucking resilience and ingenious abilities.
There's, I think, credit where credit's due. Here's the thing: there's good and bad people everywhere. There's good and bad. There's smart people who are Jewish, and there's some probably mentally handicapped ones somewhere.
Oh yeah, there's got to be general trends. You don't judge individuals. It's just general trends.
Yeah, and I think that society trends very well because of these practices they do, and I think it could lead to our planet in 100 to 200 years if we master that ability to retain individuality and maximize our resources. I don't think it'll be overpopulation. I think it'll be a natural progression from our planet to the moon, which becomes terraformed, to Mars. People in the science fiction literature always have a supposition, and so the general population gets an idea of how it should be, but the reality is probably a lot greater, and it's always something different than you expect. All right.
We love the Jews. We'll be right back. What are you doing?
All right. Now we're going.
Now we're back.
Back like bad stuff in the 80s. I like saying that. It's stupid. Anyway, you were telling me an exciting story about, we'll talk about the universe shenanigans later, about being having a script meeting in downtown Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear this.
Well, I finally got a response back on one of my queries randomly on the IMDb Pro. And it was this dude who was like had done some small acting roles, but his main thing is he's a manager, right? And he was like this built kind of mixed race, handsome dude, and like he was real straightforward in the email. He's like, yeah, I read Panther Tale. He took a while to get back to me. And I was like, is he reading it? And I'm like, all right, that seems plausible. And so we show up, or I show up, and I'm like dressed. I'm dressed real like.
Hey, tell the cliff notes of the story of Panther Tale real quick too.
Oh, Panther Tale. Yeah. Well, yeah. Panther Tale is a blaxploitation action comedy I wrote. That's like kind of like Superfly or The Mac, or something like that. But it's about this down and out guy who finds a bunch of money, doesn't know where it came from. Turns out it's like a sting operation, the DEA and a Mexican drug cartel. And he doesn't know that at the time, so he takes the money and runs and starts and meets these girls and starts his porn actor career. And and so he read some of it, and he was like, he liked it enough to set up a meeting. So I was like, all right, bet. And so it was in like 5th or 6th Street, the downtown. And
ground zero of.
I didn't even think about it when I put it in. I was like, well, downtown, I've driven through those like crazy streets before. I couldn't remember which streets it was. I was like, I hope that's not what it is. And I get there, and it looks like Dawn of the Dead on all the sidewalks. People just like having full barter economies. I just had a nice button down on, like I just shaved up, I had a fucking fresh haircut.
In the middle of Barter Town, it's Master Blast the Thunderdome time down there.
Man, I got caught up in a 3-card Monte game. Looked interesting. No, I was stepping over people, and he meets me at the gate and doesn't make any reference to what I just walked through or like the contrast of me and that. He was like, hey, come on in. And we get to talking for a little bit. And then, like, one of the first things he said to me after, like, we got introduced was like, man, I really expected you to be black from talking to you on the phone. And, but yeah, man. And then one of his other clients, a pro athlete, like that I was recognizable. I knew exactly who it was when we walked through the door. I was like, oh, what's up, man? And he was hanging out. He's one of his clients too. And this guy, like, gets pro athletes to help him fund his projects, right?
Makes sense.
So he starts describing my script to this guy after he has supposedly read it, and goes on and totally fucks up the plot. He's saying the whole thing is about because like my main character gets divorced from his wife. He's saying the whole thing is about like trying to get back with his wife. And like, and he's like, there was car chases. Neither one of those things happened. But I'm watching him bullshit this guy. And I'm just like,
trying to sell the movie so he funding.
If he wants to fucking pay for the movie, all right.
Yeah.
But you didn't read the script. And so I'm like, all right, man, whatever. And he told me to go down to Central Casting. And try to get commercial work.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, man.
Yeah, so what happened is
the fucking Doritos guy.
He thought he was bringing in a young black gentleman to help the athlete feel as though he were doing a good favor for the community, I expect.
Probably.
And that was probably part of the angle there. And then he's like, oh, this is not going to work how I expected at all. That's pretty funny. That's
appropriated our culture and wrote about.
Well, I don't think that's appropriation. I think that's more like it's like fan. Yeah, I got you. It's like it's very funny. I mean, dude, read the script. You figured it out.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That is so funny. So nothing. You never heard anything about that. That was go to Central Casting. Was don't call us. We'll call you.
I should probably just send out a bunch more emails because some people just miss it and they don't get back to you, and you may email them 5 times before they see one of them. Right.
And yeah. Well, they're busier than one-legged cat with the Hershey squirts. Yeah. They got a lot of shit to do. You know? That's why you got to be persistent. They'll probably just forget you because they got busy. Just don't be a Tobias Funke, I guess.
Yeah, it's feature films are the hardest thing to fucking.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get into it from the bottom. I want to kind of side swipe my way into it if I can. You know, like become a marketable property, and then get involved with it. See if that. I don't know if that's possible. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it starts with stand-up, I think.
It's
the best way to go from the ground up.
There's a lot of stuff you can do with stand-up.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I just got on
if you just keep
TV.
that as your base.
Yeah. Well, and then people see you, and they see you can do different things.
You can catch me 10 o'clock every night at the Fourth Wall Comedy Club in North Hollywood, California.
That's where you find him.
Man, love that little place.
Yeah.
Joey Diaz showing up, crushing sets.
Pretty neat.
He did a full 30 minutes preparing for his Netflix special there.
Oh, wow.
And, like, so I saw him signed up, like, 6 slots.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they do it on the website. You sign up for a slot.
Yeah.
So you know when you're going in the order, when you got to be there.
Yeah.
5 minutes, $5. It's just so simple. And first come, first serve.
Right.
But he had, like, all 6 slots to himself. And I was like, it just said JD. And I was like, Joey Diaz? Oh, okay. So, and I knew his special was coming up, and he had a 30-minute special. I was like, oh, shit, he's going to run his special.
That's pretty cool.
And so I was there watching it, and he fucking rocked it. That
Nice.
dude can tear up a room. That's a small little room,
Yeah,
right?
it's tiny. It's the size of
They
this
packed a bunch of people in there, and he fucking tore it up, man.
Oh, I'll bet he did. He's a funny dude.
He had this bit about what's that actor dude's name who said he got his dick touched by a Hollywood executive?
Oh,
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews, yeah. Terry Crews is funny.
He's like, what's it gonna bother you? Just let the fag touch your dick a little bit. What's it gonna do? He's gonna have a nice day. Now that he touched you, and maybe you pull him aside, punch him in the stomach a little bit. That's it. You just handle it right there. Why do you gotta make a big public announcement? Yeah, stupid.
Somebody's had their dick handled.
Probably people have probably gone after some dick. You never know. There's some.
Yeah.
You know, people that make power plays just to, like a fuck you supposed to be funny type of thing, but it's like they have power over you, so it's like it adds that weird dimension of it.
I think there's definitely that, and I think there's people who make it and don't do that.
Oh yeah,
they're out there. Lunatic Fringe, you know they're out there. Bam, 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 bam. You know that song, Lunatic Fringe? It's a good song.
I don't know.
It's really stupid. It's a good song. I like it, but it's goofy. I don't know. I've got strange tastes. Anyway, yeah, there's some shenanigans going on at the back end of the industry for sure. As far as I know, you know, all we can do is what we can do. I figure do the best we can with what we got where we're at and try not to make any moral compromises. Easier said than done, but that's the key. I think if you just keep trying to do the right thing after you mess up, that's the primary thing. You know, but yeah, that's so funny with that script. So yeah, you need to start sending it to some other folks. There's opportunity out there, and I think comedy does, if you can make it well enough as a comedian, you become a marketable quantity because you're going to make people money, and then so they want you because you put money in their pocket, and then if you do it well enough, it puts money in your pocket, and then you can start doing your own thing. That's what the hope is anyway.
But yeah, keeping stand up as your base, and then being able to branch off into whatever you want to do. Yeah. Like for me, I just love that fucking Adam Sandler idea of like starting on the stage. But I would keep doing stand up a lot more than Sandler. He went full movies.
Maybe, I don't know. I've seen a lot of comics do that, and I can understand why. I haven't been at it quite 10 years. I've been at it not even 10 years. I've been at it.
But you notice the movies kind of trailed off in how great they were. Yeah,
they did, and that's the thing. It's good to mix things up.
If you're constantly in comedy clubs around it all the time, your brain just goes at a different RPM.
It does, but at the same time, it also makes it hard to find the funny for some reason. Because there's a certain, when you're around, it's like going to work all the time. You just get deaf to certain stuff when you hear loud sounds all the time, you know? So there's something to be said for mixing it up a little bit. But there's a balance. It's a balance is what it is. I'd say you wouldn't want to get rid of comedy entirely. just to keep yourself limber. But I can see why a lot of comics gravitate away from it for a time, because it does get, you do.
Unlike a movie or a TV show, you don't have a team of other people who are gonna try to hack away at whatever you're trying to do.
No, but you
clean it up.
You hit a wall with comedy in sequence. You have peaks and valleys with it. So you'll be doing good and really creative for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden nothing you do feels funny anymore, and you have trouble laughing at anything, and then you kind of find you're funny again, and you're good for a while. And I've noticed, for me anyway, maybe it's just bipolar disorder, but I've noticed I have up and down tendencies like that with comedy. Sometimes I'm just getting all kinds of funny jokes out. Sometimes I can't think of something funny to save my life. I'll be able to be funny in the moment or in conversation, but like a new bit that I really like, I have a hell of a time getting that out.
Yeah.
And that's like, I haven't written any. I wrote a 90-second bit that I think is pretty good, which I need to shop around more. And that's about the longest bit I've written in the last month, and maybe even in the last 2 or 3 months. And there's some stuff I'm out of practice on, because you get enough material, then you got to keep circulating it.
I think it's kind of cool that you write those tiny little one-liners and like really efficient, like little pieces. Like that's the stuff that I wish I had the patience for, to sit and tinker away at like, a sentence. Like I'm like trying to mix together two big ideas I got going in my head.
Well, usually how it happens is I'll have a bigger thought, and I'll find out 90% of the thought wasn't necessary. There's only one part of that was funny, so I just cut the unnecessary stuff and keep the funny bit. That's kind of what I've been doing with a lot of it, because a lot of those jokes had a longer version, and it just wasn't good. There was one part that was funny, the rest of it wasn't, so kept the good stuff, cut the rest. So that might help you, because I found a lot of my stuff. I watched a Jim Gaffigan special, and I timed out his laughs, and he had a laugh every 5 seconds for an hour, and that takes that level of craftsmanship. So I started from then on just trying to do that as best I can, and I've made it work successfully a few times, but I think there's always room for growth with comedy. Unless you can do, I feel really bad for that redheaded guy that jacked off in front of people, Louis C.K. I feel bad for that guy, because he really got it down. He got the rhythm right where he was doing a new album a year, and that's the ideal rhythm. But then, as a consequence, he got the rhythm wrong with the ladies and the performance.
Translated that rhythm right into his stroke.
Right into his stroke. Yep, just got that stroke.
Public stroke.
Oh, it's horrible. So that is sadly, the fallout on that is it takes a lot of discipline to get to that point. How many years did he do comedy before?
Oh yeah, his last special that he put out before that happened was awesome.
I'll bet it was hilarious.
Oh man.
And how many years did he do comedy before?
His opening joke was on abortion. It was like 10 minutes on abortion, and it was crazy. Like, it was fucking hilarious.
Now, what I was going to say, though, is how many years did he strike away at it before he started doing good enough that he was getting jobs, getting in the mainstream?
Louis?
Yeah.
I don't know. He started in Boston. I think he started when he was a teenager, too.
Okay.
And I think, like, his... mid-20s is probably when it, like, because he started...
What do we got for Google on that?
His first stuff.
Because I'll bet he, I'll bet you that he...
Yeah, he was shooting little short films at 17, and did his first open mic at 18.
Okay, so that's us right now.
And then,
if you will. How many years? Was it like 20 years? It was 10, 15. I thought it was 10 or 15 years.
His breakthrough in stand-up was like 2005. His one night stand on HBO.
And he started it how old was he when he was 18?
18?
No, I mean, like, what year was it? I'm sorry.
Right. It was 1985.
1985.
So 20 years.
20 years. 20 years it took him to get to that point where he was on the HBO special, doing an hour. So he made it there, and then from there he's doing a new one every year. He got the system figured out. I wonder how long between the first decent album and the second one. I don't know. It's too bad that he screwed up though with that weird sex thing, and that's what we were talking about earlier with ethics and society. If you can get a society that isn't controlled by sensuality in one form or another, then it seems evident that you're going to have less issues like that. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you can't get rid of that altogether. All you can do is diminish it, but there's no way to totally get rid of that.
Yeah,
and so
I think part of what's happening is good is that people's ethics around sexuality are kind of being defined.
Well, and
like,
I don't
because
think
you got to
have
that.
I don't think it's something to be done at a legal level either. I think it's something to be done more on a personal responsibility level.
Yeah.
We have to be personally responsible for ourselves and how we interact with other people, and we have to spread that ethic to other people naturally by doing the right thing and treating them right. And I think if that happens, naturally we'll have more freedom, we'll have less difficulty, we'll have greater artistry that isn't surfeited by hidden perversity. We'll have all these things that really evince a golden age. And I think it's possible we got one more golden age before the curtain closes on this era of mankind. But I don't know.
We might have
seen it.
We don't subvert the perversion here at Outrage TV. We put it right in your face with satire. And
we're conservatively subversive.
We like making you guys laugh on this channel. We're gonna keep doing our thing.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is the motherfucking OutrageCast.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kevin Bennett.
Absolutely. I'm Nick Jordan. And more sketches to come. All right, we'll see y'all later.
Au revoir.